Hey everyone! So I thought I'd do something a little bit different, and something I haven't really mentioned much on this channel. If you know me from my Oh Little Sparrow channel, you know that I'm very much always talking about these things, but recently I got a homophobic comment on one of my DVD collection update videos from a viewer, or maybe someone just passing by, that doesn't know much of me or my channel or the way my life is, so I thought I'd address things to new viewers that are new to my channel from my DVD videos and not from my old channel, which is my Glee channel. I am a very huge, humongous LGBT supporter. I'm part of the community. I'm bisexual. I've been out for quite a few years now. I've known for a very long time, and I'm very proud and happy with my life, and the LGBT community and whatnot is at least half, if not more, of my daily life. Like, I talk about it, I watch movies, I watch television shows and characters and fall in love with these characters, and usually my favorites, and read gay fiction novels, and I'm in the Alliance at school, and I'm going to Pride Fest next week, and it's like, it's a huge part of my life, and I thought I would address it. So, you know, that's who I am. I love being it. I never felt more accepted and to be me. And also my hair is red. I didn't mention that. I dyed my hair. It's been a couple years. If you remember from my old channel, then you're definitely a old fan. So with that, I'm going to be doing my favorite LGBT films to give some recommendations. A lot of my collection actually is whether it is male and male or female and female, whatever, trans, that whole community. So whenever I do my entire DVD collection, I will probably mention that again. But yeah, I love those type of films. And no, it's not porn. It's like, you know, love stories and romance and comedy and whatever that may be. So there's a variety of things. However, there's a lot more male and male because there really aren't a lot, in my opinion, very great lesbian films that kind of stick out to me. And majority of the big ones that are out or have been out are usually male and male. So if it's not really unequal representation, I apologize. It's just, you know, those are the ones I've seen and heard. So this will not be a countdown because they will be way too long and I could never do them in order. These are just going to be my favorite or the best LGBT, which is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and all the above other letters, favorite films in that category. A lot of them which are popular ones that I just think are great in quality, and then there are also some maybe foreign films or unknown indie films that I thought have been great and I've loved for a few years now. Especially a few years ago, I was obsessed with like gay characters and gay films more than I am now, but like, I don't know, I was just like obsessed there. I'd only watch TV shows or fall in love with TV shows like Glee and Shameless that had huge gay characters coming out and stuff. So yeah, this is going to be a video just on that. So let's get into my blabbing rambling. Because I love to ramble, I will put the trailer for each movie I mention if I can find them, so I won't get into a huge like description and summary of the movie. I'll just talk a little bit briefly about each if I can. The first gay film I think is one of my personal favorites. I haven't watched it in a few years, but I do own it on DVD, which is Get Real, which is a 90s, I believe it's 1998, British gay film. I just love this film because it's Get Real. I love the ending, that it's realistic and it's not like happily ever after fairy tale romance. It's real life, and I love the character that this guy is so out and not out, but he's very proud of who he is and he loves being gay, but he's in the closet and he meets a boy who's very similar in that sense, maybe not as accepting of himself, and they sort of bond in that sense, and the ending is just wonderful, and I think you should definitely check it out. It's called Get Real. It's very out of print. I think it's out of print on DVD, but I think you could probably find it somewhere to watch, so watch the trailer. It's really great. The next, one of my other favorite ones I haven't watched in a few years, but I remember obsessing over as well as Get Real, is Summer Storm. It is a German film, so if you do find this movie to watch, hopefully it has subtitles, because otherwise, unless you speak German, then you're going to be really confused. But it is about a kid who realizes he's gay after he falls in a unrequited crush over his best friend. He's on a rowing team and they go to this camp to train for the rowing things, and there's actually a very openly gay rowing team who are just like super, you know, proud of it, and they're all gay, and it's just he kind of resonates with that group and sort of becomes friends with them and relates to them and helps them accept who he is. I just really love that movie. It's also very realistic and powerful. Another film that I think almost everybody knows, well, not everybody, but one of the more mainstream one is Milk. I've seen this one a few times. It is the movie, of course, that I found out about Harvey Milk, and I think it's one of the most important films that anybody needs to see, because we're not taught who Harvey Milk is, or the gay rights movement in the 70s on Castro Street, because we have history that we're not being taught in school, and I think films like these that have so much great quality as well, and a wonderful cast that people know, like Sean Penn and James Franco and Emile Hirsch and Josh Brolin and whatnot, is important, because it's something that everybody needs to learn about, and I'm very happy that Sean Penn won the Academy Award for that. I think he definitely deserved it. And as well as Life and Times of Harvey Milk, which is a documentary about actual Harvey Milk and actually seeing the real Harvey Milk and his life, and it's quite interesting as well. Another film that's very similar to Get Real, which is Beautiful Thing. It's also a 90s, I believe, if not early 2000s, British film about two boys that are neighbors and actually kind of fall in love and realize that they maybe are both gay, and they sort of go outside the community and what can they do to kind of accept one another. And it's been a few years since I've seen it as well, but I do own it on DVD. It's a really great, it has a great soundtrack, which is Mama Cass, and almost the entire, it's great. It's a wonderful, unique spin on the whole kind of gay thing as well. I think it was remade or it was a play or something like that, so I think the story is still around. Another great film is In and Out, which has a wonderful cast. I think it's one of the more well-known ones as well. I was always hesitant to watch this one because I wasn't sure if I was gonna like gay comedy, because usually like a stereotyping, but I love this movie because it's like supposed to be like making fun of the stereotypes of being gay, especially in the 90s, because of course it wasn't as accepting as it is today. Maybe it's a little more progressive, but it still was not like, you know, it's basically, if you don't know, when Tom Hanks won his first Academy Award for Philadelphia, which is another great movie as well, I think you should watch, which just falls into this category, is about a man who is discriminated against and fired for having AIDS from his job, of course, and he tries to fight back the system with that in court. And Denzel Washington is this homophobic lawyer, and so that kind of ties him. Anyway, so he won the Academy Award for that, and in his speech he said he was influenced by two great gay men, which one was a former student and another was a teacher. The teacher, I don't know about the student, but the teacher was not even out, and he mentions him, and this story is like a fictionalized version, well, sort of like their interpretation of that, where Matt Dillon plays the Tom Hanks kind of character who comes from a small town and becomes this huge actor who wins an Oscar, and then Kevin Kline is the teacher who realizes, wow, maybe he really is gay, and he's getting married to Joan Cusack's character after years of being engaged and finally getting married, and maybe those are signs that he maybe really be gay. And then Tom Selleck is a gay reporter who actually kind of helps him accept who he is, and it's a hilarious, wonderful, cute movie. I really enjoyed it. I think Kevin Kline was great. I've only seen him in this movie and The Big Chill, and I really loved his performance in and Out. It was just so fun. Really great comedy. I think it just worked really well, because sometimes it fails, and this one definitely was great. Huge, wonderful cast too. Did I mention that? I don't know, but it's great. Okay, and on to a lesbian film, which is Imagine Me and You, which has Piper Perabo and Lena Headey, who plays Cersei on Game of Thrones, so awesome. I can't remember much about this film, but Piper Parabo's character just got recently married to Matthew Good, who also played in A Single Man, which was another gay film, which I don't have on this list, but has Colin Firth, and it's kind of a sad one, so it's not one of my favorites, but he's in it anyways. So anyways, they sort of connect, the two girls sort of fall in love even though she's married, and how does this conflict, and how will her life go on even though she's in this marriage, and she's gonna break this guy's heart, but yet she really loves this woman. And it's a wonderful, it's probably obviously it's one of the best lesbian films I've seen because it's on this list, but it's also just, it was enjoyable, it was cute, it was like a rom-com. It was like a chick flick, but it was two girls and it was no big deal. I mean, it kind of was, but we kind of delve into that, but you know what I mean. Another great one that's not on this list, but I just want to briefly mention if you are into the more better quality lesbian film, which is Blue is the Warmest Color, which is a French film. It has a lot of lesbian sex scenes, which in my opinion are fine, of course, but sometimes it's like 15 minutes long. It's like, okay, alright, I'm all for the story, like, but it, you know, so if you don't watch it with your grandma, just saying, or your mother, unless, you know, she's all gung-ho about sex, she don't care. Just saying. So be careful on those, but it is a great film. Just a little long in my opinion. I have a short attention span, but the girl who plays Adele, I think her name's Adele in real life, she is gorgeous. They're both pretty gorgeous, but Adele in that hair, she was just flawless. Anyways, so it is French, so you're gonna have to find subtitles as well. It is like 2.5 hours long. It's very long. The next film I'm going to mention is Boys Don't Cry, which is the only trans film I have on this list because I don't think I've seen, or I can't remember any other trans movies, but this one is probably the top notch because it had Hilary Swank, who won the Oscar for this, and especially in its time period. I believe this came out in 1983. I'm not 100% sure if that was a true story, but there was a girl named Tina, I believe, who wanted to become Brandon, so her name was Brandon Tina, and she became a he, and he lived his life as a man hidden in a small town in the Midwest, I think, or if not the South, and she kind of falls in love. He falls in love with a woman, and she doesn't know that this is a guy who is not really a guy but is a girl anatomy wise, and it just does not maybe go so well with the town, and it's really tragic and really sad, but it's definitely top-notch acting quality. I think everybody should kind of see Boys Don't Cry. Very sad, and especially, you know, think about a lot of these movies are back in that time period, of course, when it's not accepting, and especially in, you know, a small town, and yeah. Another movie that's related to small town or Midwest or closed-minded, closeted, of course, is Brokeback Mountain. Everybody knows Brokeback Mountain. I used to be obsessed with this movie when I first found out what it was. If you don't know what Brokeback Mountain is, I don't know where you've been for the last almost 10 years, but Brokeback Mountain is about two cowboys who fall in love through, I believe it's the 1960s through the 80s. It's a tragic love story because they can't be together, and they both marry and have children, and don't see each other for huge gaps of time, but I think over that entire 2 decades they realize that they only want each other, and they can't hide with the lies that they make throughout the rest of their life. This was directed by Ang Lee, who won the Best Director for that year at the Oscars, and I think it's well deserved. A lot of people say it's like really boring, but but visually stunning, let's just say that. I can't say the word. Yeah, so I believe that is true. I mean, it's a very long, very dragged out film, but it's one of the more classics in my opinion. I've seen it so many times. I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember being obsessed with it. Another film I hadn't seen for a while, but I do remember enjoying it. I think it's one of the more different ones, which is Latter Days, which is about a Mormon missionary who comes to Los Angeles for his mission. Also, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is also one of the other missionaries he comes with, and they live next door nearby a gay neighbor, and I think that they've never seen a gay person in their life, and I think he starts to relate with this man, and they sort of start to fall in love. And I hadn't seen it in a while, but I do like the different take of it. It is a very interesting crossing paths kind of between religion and sexual orientation, and I really enjoyed it. Another film I hadn't seen in a while, but I do own it on DVD, and I think it's great, which is Boy Culture, and I believe it is about a male hustler named X who actually really wants a monogamous relationship, and he has 2 gay roommates, one of which he actually starts to date, and I think that he needs to prove that he actually wants to be monogamous and actually have a real relationship, so he invites him to his family's wedding as his date, and shenanigans go on and whatnot, and I really like this movie. It's an interesting take as well. It also has the guy who was on the Noah's Ark television show, which is a gay television show, and I really like him. Another great film that kind of, these 3 kind of all tie in with one another, like whenever I see top 10 gay films list, which is Shelter, which is a movie about a guy who has to take care of his sister's son, his nephew, because his sister's kind of like unreliable and undependable and irresponsible, and his best friend's brother comes into town who is actually gay, and they sort of bond and start to have this relationship, but he's worried that his family and society is not going to accept him and take away his nephew from him because he likes men. It's a great film also because it has like really great like beach scenes. It's like on the beach and it's really cool. Okay, and the more recent gay films I've really enjoyed, one of which is called GBF, Gay Best Friend, who has William, I always want to say his name's William, but it's Michael Willett, who is actually, who was on United States of Terror as Lionel, which I didn't like him on there. I don't know why, I don't know. And then also, he is on, currently, the show Faking It on MTV, which is about two girls who pretend to be lesbians, one of which actually maybe really be a lesbian and falling for her best friend. It's an interesting concept. You should just watch it. It doesn't sound as weird as it really is. Well, it kind of is. Anyways, GBF is like making fun of the stereotype of the gay best friend, that they're these asexual guys that just want to be girls' best friends, and they're gay, and like they're just sassy, and like it's an interesting story. It's basically him and his really flamboyant best friend who's in the closet, and she's like really gay, and the main character, I can't remember his name. I want to say it was like Shane or something. I can't remember. But he is actually not as like, you know, out there, but he's actually outed by the Gay Straight Alliance because there's no gay people to be in their Gay Straight Alliance. And it has a really great cast, like, you know, the girl from Pretty Little Liars, Allison, and then the guy from RJ Burger is on there. It's just people, Megan Mullally, who's fucking hilarious, on there. Just, it's so funny. It's just making fun of it's kind of like In and Out, where it's making fun of the stereotypes, and it's sarcasm, and I don't know if they call it black comedy, I'm not 100% sure, but it's hilarious. It's really enjoyable. I actually watched it for a second time not that long ago. It's so good. I really enjoy it. Another more recent film is Geography Club, which is about a boy who realizes maybe he's gay, and there's also one of the most popular football players who actually, they start to have a sort of secret relationship, but he can't come to terms with it. And the main character, finds this club called the Geography Club, who are pretending to be the Geography Club but really are the Gay Straight Alliance, and they're all kind of in the closet about it, but they all still want to be friends and have this club and this place for acceptance, and even people who aren't gay can join this club who just feel like they're an outcast. And I really like this film because it's more about friendship and accepting yourself rather than romance, because it doesn't have a happy ending, and it's just, I mean, happy ending in a romance setting. It's more of a happy ending in a self-acceptance setting, and it's really good. I really love the main character's friendship with his best friend, who accepts him for being gay in the end, even though he's always pushing him to date girls and stuff. He doesn't really know the truth, and it's just a wonderful cast. And Alex Newell from Glee, who plays Unique, the first trans character on Glee, is on there, and it's really great movie. I think you should definitely check it out. Another more recent film, which is Christopher and His Kind. I love this movie because Matt Smith, who plays the 11th Doctor, Doctor Who, that did not play in that, is in this movie and is set in the 1930s. I don't know for sure if this is actually based on something, whether it's a book or a true story, but it's this guy who's like, he's always on the underground, and he's always like, he's definitely knows he's gay, and just seeing Matt Smith like doing a guy is just something I never knew I wanted, but I love. And it's just, he falls in love with this boy, and how do they, it was Nazi Germany at that time as well, so but he's English, and it's an interesting concept. I've never seen something like that before in that time period specifically. Also another one that's kind of like that is Little Ashes, which is Robert Pattinson, based on the true story of Salvador Dali's love affair in the 1920s with poet, or deceased poet now, Federico Garcia Lorca, which was during the Spanish War. It's actually sort of alleged. It's not, I think it is real, but he kind of was always like, no, this did not happen. He married a woman, and that's when their relationship started to go awry, and Salvador Dali got more famous and moved to Paris, and Frederica was actually killed and during the Spanish War at that time, and many people say it was because not only was he a revolutionary, I believe that's what it's called, or someone who was against the war and actually fought to be against the war, you know, like we should not be doing this, was actually also killed because he was gay, and he was pretty open about it during those times. So I've seen that one so many times as well. It's so good. I don't know, I love it. And you know, you think Robert Pattinson, but it actually kind of worked as Salvador Dali. Okay, and the last one I'm recommending on this list is The Normal Heart, which just came out on HBO, which is directed by Ryan Murphy, and it is just probably one of the best films I had seen, not just this year, but in a very long time. And it's not just about because it's a gay film, but it's because of the impact that it has on the story and the truth behind what really happened in the United States of America that maybe some of us had no idea what was going on during the 1980s. But this cast was Mark Ruffalo, Matt Bomer, who's like the most gorgeous man alive, and like for him to be like terrible looking because of this disease is, well, his character is really sad. Also Jim Parsons, which I loved him in this movie because he's usually typecasted in a sense. I think I always see him as Sheldon, you know, but in this movie he just transformed into something that I never seen him be, and he was fantastic. Like, he stuck out to me the most, I would say. He was awesome. And also Julia Roberts was in it, and Jonathan Groff was also in it, and Taylor Kitsch, I believe his name is, and Joe Manganiello, I believe is, and Alfred Molina, I think that's his name. If I'm messing up these names, I'm sorry, but I knew what I knew who they were, I just can't remember their names. Great story. It's about the AIDS crisis before it was considered AIDS in the United States. This was during the 1981 to 84 period, I believe, where Ned Weeks, which is Mark Ruffalo's character, this is actually based on a play by Larry Kramer, which is turned into a film. Anyways, so I really love this movie, I'm like passionate about it. He meets this guy, well, this is before he meets him. He goes onto the Fire Island thing, you know, in the 80s, back when, you know, they all went to the island, all the gay guys, and him and his group of friends, and one of his friends actually starts to have these symptoms and nobody knows what it is, and they start to call it like the gay cancer. They have no idea, only gay men are getting it first in the United States, and they come to find out it is HIV, and eventually it does become AIDS, and a lot of people didn't know what AIDS was, and back then they didn't have the antiretrovirals, and they didn't have this medication to slow down the disease, because honestly, no, for real, like, you have HIV and you can have that for years and decades until you get AIDS. So for them to not even know what's going on, the process is way faster. Also, when you have HIV, you can also be asymptomatic, so you might not even know you have it for years until you start to really like get lesions on your body, and that was like the first sign for them, and you're sick all the time and you're weak and losing weight. Anyway, so all these friends in this group, this whole community is starting to die, and they don't know why, and nobody will help them. The government will help them. Only Emma, what's her name on the movie? Emma, aka Julia Roberts' character, was the only one that was like helping them and treating them. They'd be turned away from the hospitals, and when you'd be taken care of, they'd be put in like trash bags, not body bags, when they die, and nobody cared. Nobody was helping them, and they were just trying to get the word out, the gay men's health crisis, and the fact that this really happened broke my heart, and just the way it was done was brilliant, and I think this is one of the movies that everybody should see, as well as Philadelphia. These kind of movies that we find out the truth of the AIDS crisis in the 80s, because no, we're not taught in this in school. We don't know what's happening. We have no idea, because I'm in a generation that was born 10 years after this, and I didn't know until maybe I found out more about gay characters on television and media, and people say that media can be negative, but sometimes it can be positive, because you can learn so many things that you were never taught in school. And you know, this is a civil right, and we're not being taught it in school. I'm sorry I'm preaching, but I'm very passionate about it. So just having this kind of movie and this great cast that can be heard and recognized and be seen, and I hope that so many people see this movie. Even though it's on HBO, don't let it stop you. You can find it somewhere. It's phenomenal. Please, 5 stars. I recommend it to everybody. If not the most one, I think everybody should see, because it will break your heart that this actually really happened, and nobody was doing anything until like 1985, 1986, when Rock Hudson died. Was probably the one celebrity that was like changed everything, and then Ronald Reagan was like, wow, I'm finally gonna admit this is a real thing, that people are dying. Like 3,000 people died in like the course of like 3 years, I believe. I'm not 100% sure on the numbers, but yeah, it was real. It was real and was happening, and it first started with gay men, but then it started to sort of spiral out into not just gay men, but heterosexual men and women, like Dallas Buyers Club, which I think is a great movie, and also Jared Leto and Matthew McConaughey were great, and it's a great movie about the story of the AIDS crisis, but this is the story of what happened before even anybody was doing a damn thing about it, and it's tragic, but it's a great film, and I think you should all watch it right now. But that is my list, my favorite, the best in my opinion of gay films. Like I said, there were a few many years ago I'd watched, so I might have forgotten some, but I might have seen it. If you recommend some, go right ahead. But I will talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for watching and listening to my rants and rambles. And I hope you enjoy the list, and if you hadn't seen any gay films, please watch any of these. They are wonderful. As someone who knows their movies, they're great. So, talk to you guys later. Please subscribe if you're digging this. I don't know. Yeah, see you guys soon. I hope to do another DVD collection update probably some point in June. Yeah, bye. That was really awkward at the end. Bye.